And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hello and welcome, Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson, and this podcast is brought to you by Waiting for Next Year. Check them out, original Cleveland sports reporting at waitingfornextyear.com. Well, Browns football is back, less than 48 hours away before the Browns Ravens at the Rat's Nest. Anyway, we break it all down as we look forward to an NFL season like no other. COVID. Oh, goodness. Did you see the Kansas? Oh, them fans. They seemed a little close. I'm a little nervous. Anyway, and then there's the Indians. I don't want to talk about the Indians. I'm not going to lie. I have nothing to say about the Indians. I don't want to do it, but we're going to. Let's just say it hasn't gone well for the Tribe. They're 0-3 from our last podcast. That's terrible. We pour whiskey and relive that mind-numbing series against those pesky Royals, who should not be pesky at all. Finally, Ohio State coach Ryan Day chants, let us play in mid-October. That's the hope. We'll see if it happens. And then I'm going to take a nap for the rest of the show as Andy previews the Irish and Dukie's game. But first, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
2020 Brown season. I know everybody like Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever your religion is. We count down these things. It is here, and we all know what that means. We've won one game since something, and we tied once, and everything else has been really bad. But we don't remember those times, but we remember the one win against Baltimore and that one tie in the monsoon. Hope everybody's week is going well. This has been the most of a world that is so 360. Boy, have we had a 180 on the Browns compared to last year, as I mention every time. But I'm going to mention it again. It's amazing how last year this time felt so different compared to this year on top of COVID. So I'm taking it through the ranks of 6. I think we need to start with him, so let's start with him. I watched his press conference on Wednesday. Such a mellow-toned Baker. No more cocky Baker. He is very confident, but he is very, very non-cocky. That seemed to have gone away. And the other big thing that I like about this team, there's a lot of things we're going to get into today. We're going to get into the Ravens and the Ratbirds and all that different stuff. But I want to start off with this. You know, it's easy to get down on the Browns. Counting interceptions from Baker, no preseason, everything feels weird, injuries on top of injuries on top of injuries. I will say, to enlighten everybody, I have felt a lot better in the last 24, 48 hours after listening to the team. This team feels very confident about how they are. If you listen to Hunt, this is a run-first team, in my opinion. And he echoed that in his press conference. And I will say this again, we should start off with 6. Baker is very confident, but he's not cocky. And this is such a different Baker Mayfield, Jared, that I must admit I feel differently already. Now, it doesn't mean wins or losses, but after watching this stuff and taking it all in, I'm feeling better than I was on Monday.
I saw FanDuel came out with an over/under of 8.5.
That is the number this year.
That is positive. That is nice. That is refreshing to see. When you like when you see the betting sites coming out and giving you a little bit of hope for what you're looking forward to with this team. Now, when we're talking about Baker and they're talking about the cockiness and all that stuff, I feel like the entire team has kind of followed that same path of really recognizing that they had their asses handed to them last season. Did not play to expectations, did not do what we were all hoping they were going to do. There was no air raid offense. There was nothing to be proud of besides Nick Chubb with that team, really, at the end of the day. And here we are now with a team who recognizes that, yes, the talent is there. The talent is there for this team, but can they put it all together? They're coming out as underdogs, of course, with this Ravens game. There's nobody
As they should.
Right. They absolutely should.
As they should.
But that does not mean that they can't win this game. Does not mean that. So, listen, the tempered, as my dog shoves her face in mine right now. My boxer, Matilda. Anyway, she's being a big baby trying to lay all over me. I'm coming into this, and we talked about it a bunch already, Andy. I'm coming into this with zero expectations. I think I finally figured it out at 39 years old as a Browns fan. I'm coming in with zero expectations. So I would like to be pleasantly surprised. I will be okay if it doesn't go our way because I have to protect my heart, Andy. I have to protect my heart.
You're a bigger man than I. I will not be as patient. Here's what I will say about the Browns. It is you mentioned it. I've mentioned it. And after this, we don't have to mention it again as the season will start. This is the hardest intro to a season I've ever had. There in 16 and 17, I knew 3 or 4 wins would be big. You could just feel it. There's been other years where it's like, I think we're better than that. And but even by the time the year starts, it's like 5, 6, 7 wins. This year, I just don't get a vibe. I don't. It's very, very murky because especially with Mayfield, let's get into some of his quotes from Wednesday. Quote, "It will be good to go up against somebody we know we have to do. We've installed everything. We're putting together a good game plan. We'll have that ready to roll. So we're ready to go out and execute."
Wait, did he say game plan?
Yes.
Wow. Yes. I don't think a game plan, like for the whole game, a plan for the game.
Yes.
Oh, that'll be different.
It will be. I just hope, and I don't mind an occasional screen when done properly.
I
don't want to say
place at the right time.
I mean, and by the way, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pick on a guy, but I'm not going to miss Dontrell Hilliard going out for and Damian Ratley. Okay, or we're good. But listen to some of these other quotes. I think he looks good and super dialed in, J.C. Tretter. He looks great to me. I think Baker's ready to have a big year, Odell Beckham Jr. Now, these are common tray plate quotes. We all know that. But if you watch the tone and you hear the tone, last year we all said it. The Browns were very boisterous. They were cocky. It was not just from Freddie Kitchens or Baker. It was Odell. It was Landry. It was John Dorsey. Everyone had that tone. It's so opposite this year that it does give you hope because this is what the Browns needed. They need to come in this year, as you said it to you, confident, yes, but reality. They have a lot to prove. They have a lot to do. And I will say they are going on that path. And it's good to see. It gives you hope. I'm not saying it's a win. All I'm saying is it gives you hope, which is what we really, really need in this situation. As probably one of my sons is trying to call me, which is excellent. It's coming through my phone right now. You gotta love everybody out there. You gotta love kids. They make you laugh.
I kicked mine out tonight. My daughter's up at my dad's at the moment, getting ready to have dinner, and my son is socially distancing while skateboarding with a friend with his mask out there because near our high school football game that he cannot get into because of COVID rules. So I understand, Andy.
Yeah. So going back to this again, love kids, love Carson. Poor Carson, I'll call him back. But we got to talk about the Browns. The biggest thing, though, I do like how this team has this aura. Even I will be into the season. I will not be happy with a loss. I will not be happy with many losses. However, unless Earth strikes twice on back-to-back seasons, which is not going to happen, I know this team's heading in the right direction. I know this team is prepared the best it can be. I have gotten off this platform of they have not practiced well. You know what? I said this last year, so I'm not getting off to preseason practice shit's overrated. It's overrated.
Well, this is going to be it. This is the test for it all right here. I mean, you talk about test runs for a lot of things, whether it be going to school online, whether it be working remotely. These are all tests, things that are now we are forced to try and see if we can make it happen. Now we are going to see how the NFL looks without a preseason. And I'll tell you, judging off of the first game of the season, I think everything's going to be okay in regards to the general atmosphere of the NFL and play itself. Now, jumping to the Browns and how they do on the field, this is something that is so hard to gauge because, again, we are talking about a brand new regime. We are talking about brand new coaches. We are talking about a brand new system. We are talking about players that are coming off of a lot of confusion and a lack of cohesiveness and coming into a game that means a lot. Game 1 means a lot. The Steelers get to play the Giants.
I know.
Thanks, NFL. The Steelers get to open with the Giants.
To be fair, last year we all thought the Titans was a good opener, and the Browns shit the bed.
Well,
so
yeah,
I've learned that
that.
the Browns have just got to embrace what they got to embrace. I'm done with the days of like schedule. Like, you know what? Just roll the balls and throw what happens. When you hit on something that needs to be brought up.
I'm not all right. I guess, listen, the bottom line is you're playing a division rival and you have to kick the shit out of them, period. You want to come out, you want to rip their heads off.
It's a big game.
You want to go and make Lamar Jackson regret every needle poke of that tattoo he got on his chest.
That's a big game. It's a big game, but I've learned the Browns in past years when they have been teed up to play well, or they've gone through the meat grinder of they've had some very unfair schedule moments, and they've had some fair ones, and they've done the same thing almost every time. They've really not done well, obviously. So for every year we complained we play the Steelers in the year, and it's like a death march. And you know what? Even when they play the Steelers with a quarterback named Duck, after a week off on a Thanksgiving week, they still shit the bed. So I just have learned these games are what the games are. Roll the balls out, see what happens. But Jared hit on something that I want to echo. This is for number 6, our 6. He is only the 6th quarterback to be drafted in the first round in the history of the NFL to have 3 different coaches in 3 years. So in 101 years of NFL football and first-round quarterbacks, he is only the 6th to have 3 different coaches in 3 years. It's a lot. There's a lot of changes going on. So that's why times practices haven't looked fluid.
I mean, at least he's not 3 different teams in 3 years like Josh Rosen, but whatever.
Right. Right, exactly. The big success for me on this team is, for putting Baker aside just for 1 second, but it's going to play into this, is the success of the running game with Chubb and Hunt. If those guys run like they should and everybody blocks like they should, Baker will have a good year. If they even excel above that, which I think they can, I think Baker will have a very successful year. I want to coincide these two because I was going to ask this question. What makes a successful year for Baker? A big part of it is how well those two can run the ball. Will's blocking is a big thing too, but those things really play hand in hand.
Well, and you know what? We've got to also think about the idea of having tight ends on the field who can block and a fullback out there, because we know that there are questions about that offensive line. Correct. So it's not just up to that offensive line. They're going to try to take some of the pressure off of them with the way that they run the ball, and they're going to use those tight ends, and they're going to use that fullback, and they're going to try to open up some holes, because you know damn well that either one of those guys in space, they're gone. They're absolutely gone. So, boy, now I'm starting to get a little excited, Andy. I'm starting to get a little excited. Baby.
I did today too, putting this rundown together last night and this morning. Yeah. Because when you hear this stuff and you start talking about, it's like, it's not crazy for Chubb and Hunt to go off. It's not crazy. And by the way, for a new rookie left tackle, that's what they need to do, because that plays hand in hand. Now, let's go back to 6, because I think this has not been talked enough, and I want to hammer this tonight. This is a huge year for a quarterback. Again, 3 different coaches, 3 years. Only 6 guys with a first-round draft pick in 101 years of NFL football has done this, okay? It's a lot. How patient will we be as fans, and how patient will this organization be with Baker's a big question. Because, Jared, I will say, even with the positive impact of the running game, which I think will be there, Baker's going to still have to make throws, and we know that. Can he make it? That'll all be determined in time. But I guess my bigger question is, because I've heard some, even in the media, saying this team should get a pass, including Baker, because of everything that's been going on with COVID, everything that's going on in the new coaching staff. I don't know if that's going to be the case, though.
Well, I don't know that it should be the case, because there is so much more structure with the way that this team is being run this season. I think that even if they don't play up to expectations, as long as Baker shows improvement, that might be what saves him. But if he flounders, and if he makes a lot of dumb mistakes throughout the season, then we're going to start to have the questions. I don't think they're now. Let's get this out of the way. I don't think they're going to bench him at all this season. I don't think it's going to come to that whatsoever. I don't see that. I don't see. Case Keenum isn't taking over. There's no reason for that to be the situation. Did Andy just lock up when he was saying Case Keenum? Son of a gun. Well, Andy's internet. Here we go again. So I'm going to give a little bit of a pause. And let's see. Andy? What a terrible time for this to happen. Anyway, we're talking about Baker, and we're talking about whether he's going to be able to handle the pressure of coming back here and getting into a season with a brand new regime, and whether he's going to be able to produce in a way that keeps him there for the full season and into next season. I don't know personally whether or not that is in my mind with Baker right now. Again, just like the team and my expectations of the team, I believe that it is going to be 50-50. That's where I think it's at. That's what I think is going to be the situation for Baker throughout the season, 50-50. Again, for me, no expectations. Andy will be right back. I almost guarantee internet issues have hit us every once in a while. And again, they're hitting us tonight. It's because of all the excitement for this Brown season, no doubt. And now my dogs are going to lose their minds because my wife just pulled in the driveway, and yep, there they go, losing their minds. Right on cue. Perfect Friday evening to talk football. Odell Beckham Jr., he says he's ready to roll into 2020, but not claiming huge things. And this is a part of the tone that this team is coming into the season with. Odell says, I think it's selfish for me to say that 2020 is going to be my year. And if I would have known 3 years ago or last year, whenever I started saying this, that 2020 would have been a year like this, I do not think I would have ever said that, Beckham said. So obviously the team recognizes that not only is this important for their play on the field, but there is this weird, ominous feeling regarding the COVID situation that they're dealing with. Odell also said it has been a tough year for all of us emotionally, the pandemic, the world that we're living in. I think that it's been tough on everybody. No doubt, Odell. No doubt that has been on the minds of not only you guys, but a lot of us out here just waiting to watch some football and be excited about that. So Odell has tempered his tone regarding what's his expectations are on the season, and we'll see if the Browns can produce. Andy said hard crash. That means his computer has completely locked up. I'm going to just chill here and keep talking because that's what I don't get paid to do, to be honest. Device is not connected. It looks like Andy is jumping back in, and there he is, adding him to the stream. Andy, you are back. Hard crash, my friend. Hard crash, huh? Well, that's all right. Your microphone, you got it?
Well, we're fine.
Yeah, you're good. I can hear you. All right, welcome back. I was just talking about Odell, and I was talking about how he is another example of tempering expectations. And the fact that Odell is doing that, especially coming off of which article was that? The Esquire article. It's nice to see him. Oh, did Andy lock up again? Andy, are you there?
I'm good.
Oh, okay. Your video was a little locked up for a second. All right.
That's fine.
Anyway, that's the point. That's the tone that we're looking at. And that's a part of what makes me feel comfortable with just saying 50-50. I'm not coming in with expectations. But man, wow me. Please wow me. I would love to be wowed.
Here's what I say. I think there are. Hi, everybody. Welcome to be back on planet Earth. I do think the expectations are real, meaning this. Like, this team has a lot of talent. I don't want to act like there's nothing here where, hey, the Browns are some sort of team that can't win games. This team has too much talent. And that's why I think the expectations for this is very, very strange. Because I don't like the idea of punting the season. I'm starting to hear that from not just fans, but from media. And I don't think this is a puntable season.
No, and I don't think that we've said that either. I don't even think with tempered expectations, I want to punt the season. Not at all. Not at all.
No, I want to start winning. Like, I guess the big thing is, like, I agree. There are tempered expectations. But I will also say it's time to start winning. Like, I'm tired of, like, every year we go through this, like, oh, new coach, or, hey, we always have excuses. Now, I want to get back something that you brought up. I don't think Keenum coming in this season is a good thing. However, I think Keenum will be pulled and used when needed if they don't play well with Baker. And I will say that. I do think that is something that's looming because this team has too much talent. And I'm telling you, if Baker struggles, which I don't think he will, I don't think this will be a thing. And by the way, this is not good if he's playing. I'll repeat that. It's not good if Keenum's playing. But this team's not going to mess around, Jared. I don't think they're going to sit there. It's like you have too much talent. Like I heard today, the Hunt contract, which we'll get to. A lot of people think the Hunt contract means, well, are they going to get rid of Odell and Landry in 21 and 22? And my point is this. I think the Hunt contract means this. Those guys are staying if Baker struggles because then they have to go back to the quarterback well again. Now, if Baker plays well, then you're going to start seeing probably Odell or Landry or both in 22. Probably by 2022, you're not going to have both those guys on your team. And I think that's the bigger thing down the road.
I think something else down the road that makes it difficult to assess is the fact that this Browns team has consistently not spent between 30, 40, and $50 million of cap space every single year. That money not spent is money not lost.
Yeah.
So I think that could play into things as they move forward as well on money that they will be willing to spend if the team is winning.
Yes. And here's my other thing too about Baker. Going off this season, this is his third year for Chubb, third year for Denzel Ward too. You can start re-upping these guys after this year, right? I think the bigger thing here that's going to come into play is for Baker, you pick up his fifth-year option probably anyways. But that's why this is such a big year for Baker. Because if he plays well enough, they're going to try to sign him long-term. If he doesn't, it's just going to be an option picked up, and he's going to have 2 more years to play it out. And it doesn't mean he's not going to play it out without a bigger contract down the road either. But that's why there's a lot that goes into this season for Baker. And I know it's a team game, and we all want the team to win. But again, for Baker, this is a big contract future year.
Well,
There's a lot riding on the line.
Baker should be eyeballing no less than 10 wins this season.
He needs a win.
He needs to win. I think he needs 10.
I do too.
I don't think 9 even cuts it.
9 in a playoff would be very good.
9 in a playoff and a solid playoff appearance
would be very good.
But if they shit the bed in the playoffs after a 9-7, I don't think that bodes well either.
Well, to your point, 8-8 doesn't get it done.
No, it doesn't. Not with the talent that is on this team.
And that's why I want to pursue this throughout the podcast. This team has a lot of talent, a lot, and it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think we as fans and the media have looked way too much into practice this year.
But,
Let's see what happens.
And we've really nitpicked things like the offensive line, and is the defensive line coming together, and what are the linebackers going to look like? And that secondary scares the shit out of me. Now, granted, those are valid concerns, Andy, but you're talking about a solid wide receiver core, a solid backfield, the best backfield in the NFL possibly.
A great defensive
tight ends.
The defensive end might be defensive player of the year. I mean, you have things ready to win. Denzel Ward, when healthy, is a good cornerback. That's gotten lost in this whole fandom and in the media sometimes. He's a very good player. Just keep all these things in mind. I just don't like the tone of, well, this year it's just a rebuild. No. Start winning games now. Don't get complacent. You can have realistic expectations. That's my word. Realistic expectations. Yeah. But it doesn't mean winning and losing. Who cares? No. We want to win.
This isn't college football. This is the NFL.
Right.
You need to win football games.
That's my point. And going and wrap this around Baker, then we'll get to the other news and notes for the week. But I just can't state this enough. He hasn't been talked about a lot, which I think is good for him.
Yep.
And I think it's all great. I have no problem with this. In fact, I think Baker look, just talking to a guy who watches these press conferences regularly, it is so striking night and day differences between Baker Mayfield this year and last year. It is striking.
Yeah.
Striking. And so there's a lot here. It's a big year for him for on the field wins, which is number one, but also off the field for his contract. He needs to play well if he wants that bigger contract down the road. He needs to. It plays a lot into this whole season. It does. Speaking about contracts, Kareem Hunt on Tuesday, September 8th, got a new deal. He signs a 2-year, $13.25 million contract, basically a good hometown discount for him. The biggest thing, and we'll get to some of his quotes that I got out of this, Jared, he is really excited and really wanted to be in Cleveland. This had, I mean, it was funny. I heard some people, and he kind of pushed back on it. Oh, the Browns did him good by taking him in, and he's given this because the Browns, and it really didn't. He pushed back hard on that question. His real point was, I'm just grateful, and I thank everybody in the building from top to bottom. This is the big one. It's an honor to be here in my hometown, end quote from Hunt. You could tell throughout the press conference, it means a lot to him. Now, to the other bigger story, which is a funny social media blowback, a lot of Browns fans getting upset because they thought that was getting a snub to Nick Chubb. That's not a snub to Nick Chubb. No. Kareem Hunt is a very good player.
Yes.
And to be fair to Kareem Hunt, he had a horrible incident. I won't relive that again because I've already talked about it. I would never sign Kareem Hunt. All that to be said.
That's why it's difficult to even say that it's a hometown discount. This is a kid who fought his way back in, fought to stay in the league and to fix the issues that he had been dealing with himself, his personal issues.
Yep.
And to do it in his hometown. I mean, it just makes sense. Really. I mean, it's not that deep. It makes sense. It
makes sense from all parties.
Chance who is taking advantage of it, who is proud to be home, and who cannot wait to rep the orange and brown right next to Nick Chubb. And that beast, that two-headed beast, we already know.
I'm excited about that, quote, Chubb says. Quote, I get to play ball with Kareem for however many more years we have. And that is a great thing for me, a great thing for this team and for the city, end quote. That's from Nick Chubb, who doesn't say much. I mean, that's pretty passionate stuff from him. The Chubb and Hunt combo is, to me, storyline 2 outside of Baker and Stefanski. This is the big thing. These two can do big things. And now let's wrap it around Stefanski.
I want the poster. I want the poster. There's like a kid. I want to hang it on my wall, both of them. Poster.
It is Mack and Biner stuff. There's no question.
Yep.
No question. So, as Mayfield, I love this quote from Mayfield on Chubb. The silent assassin does not speak much, but when he does, it carries weight, end quote from Mayfield. I thought that was a really, really good quote from Baker. The big thing here, what Jared's saying, what I've been saying all year, this is a big storyline. It needs to be talked about more, and it's pretty clear from Hunt's comments, from Chubb's comments, from Baker, from Stefanski, they are going to be playing a lot on these two. And it should be a big thing going into this year. It's exciting. Now, if it was Baker's 1A, 1B Stefanski, to be fair to Chubb and Hunt, even how much we love them, that's storyline 2 for sure. Stefanski's his first game. Big day, everything else going on. If you want the whole mystery thing about how he does, of course, we've lived that as Browns fans. What's interesting about this regime is they won't talk about who's going to be doing the play call.
Well, I thought that I saw today that Stefanski said he's going to be making the play calls, and that was today. So I don't know.
I'll tell you what, as you look that up, I will get into what Van Pelt said this week because even if they announced that today, I still find it interesting why they waited all the way up until Friday. But here's some things from Van Pelt. Quote, I think the training camp gave us the idea of how we are going to use guys within the system. Definitely something we're trying to figure out. How do guys play to our strengths? And now after a month of training camp, we have a really good idea about where these guys fit and what the roles play. So on Friday, September 11th, what did they announce here in Cleveland about Stefanski?
Cleveland.com. This was today, 5 hours ago. Kevin Stefanski announces he'll call the plays over OC Alex Van Pelt this season. Yeah, it was today, and Stefanski will make the play calls.
Real quickly, that is the right call here. Because if this team, with everything else that's been going on, that is the right call. And I think this will help.
And I believe that Tony Grossi had mentioned it on Twitter that basically the fact that there was no preseason is what kind of took away from the seeing if Van Pelt could do it sort of look.
Again, if it was anything else, I would have said Van Pelt. But with all this, there's always an outlier. This is the outlier. COVID, here we go. COVID, 2020 impact. Stefanski should call the plays. I think that's the right call.
Yeah.
You can only handle so many variables, and this team has had way too many. This is one you just need to take off. You need to take this one off.
And we know why Stefanski's here. It was to call the plays.
Yes.
From the beginning, I mean, this was part of the reason why they brought him here, right?
That's, again, next year, ask me again. I'm going to say Van Pelt or whoever the OC is. Okay, but right now, it needs to be Stefanski because, again, of everything that's going on.
Yep.
It's just this team has way too many variables. That is a big variable because they have not had a preseason game or a scrimmage against another team.
Yeah.
It's just too many variables. So I thought that I wasn't surprised. I actually would have made this a topic if they said, oh, Van Pelt's calling plays. I'm like, well, that's interesting because now you have another variable you haven't tried out against. So I think that makes way too much sense. I think that is the way to go. Last year, this time too, all these other storylines are coming in. The big one, I think, daily was OBJ and Landry, as it should have been.
Well, and while you were gone, Odell, I did talk a lot about Odell and some of these quotes. So I just wanted to give you that heads up.
Here's my big thing about these two. We won't really love those quotes, but here's my big thing about Beckham and Landry. Again, they've been kind of forgotten. Again, if I'm being honest, that's probably your fourth storyline. Your third one's the return of Myles Garrett.
Yes.
We'll get to here in a second. But this is probably the fourth storyline. And what's interesting is these two have really taken more of a back seat when it comes to storylines, which I think is good. I do think, though, something I just want to make really loud right now. Just because they're not being talked about doesn't mean they're in for a lukewarm or mediocre year. And that vibe is coming a lot out from media and from everybody else talking and chatterheads and all that stuff. I don't know if that's necessary.
Are you kidding me? Because I'm going to tell you right now, Andy, when we're looking at, I mean, especially Landry regarding his leadership role on this team, that has not disappeared, not 1%.
I'm with you. You know where I was going to go.
Period.
Look, I just think it's funny. And people I love saying things like, oh, OBJ, with everything that's going on with Chubb signing, I think he's going to be gone next year. Really? Man, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be that easy, that quick. I just think these two, which I think is good for them and good for this team, are going to be used more than what people think. Right. Now, are they going to catch the ball 8 or 9 times a game? Well, of course not. Look what we just talked about. Hooper, too, is going to be out there catching balls. So I'm not naive.
Well, and we also know that Landry's flat out said blocking's part of his game. He can't wait to do that anyway.
Yes, but here's where I think these two are going to come and play. And this is where I would hope, and this is our dream scenario, but let's dream. If the running game gets where you're going and you're throwing underneath the Hooper, eventually you can go deep to OBJ. Eventually you can throw balls up in the air and allow those two to really get in the air. And that's what they're meant to do.
Again, just finding either one of them in
That's
space.
my point. That's my point. Because once you start forgetting about them and you start coming up on the line to go with Hooper or to go on things with those two running backs, that's where, again, I'm just saying.
And I'm getting excited.
Again, this team is too talented to just say this is a throwaway year. I'm tired of that crappy comment. Tired of it. This is not a throwaway year. I want to win games. This team's here to win games. They have too much talent. Baker Mayfield last year at this time was the soup of the NFL, not just Cleveland. He was the champagne. He was in that NFL 100 commercial for a reason because we thought that was going to be the next big quarterback, not just here, but in the league. Expectations, realistic, fine. Doesn't mean this team can't win big. Just saying. I don't think 6-10 is okay. I don't think 7-9, 8-8 is okay. No. Win. You have the talent. Win the games. I'm sorry it hasn't been an easy offseason. I'm sorry there's been no preseason. Tough. Win games. Figure it out. And you're not going to hear me saying, well, it's 43-20, but at least we came back. No. If they get blown out, it's bad. Bad stuff. Now, to the defense. The forgotten part of this team. I really think Myles Garrett, again, is another guy who's going to make a big impact, as we all know. But I just want to say, we have not talked about him enough. It's a big year for Olivier Vernon. I think Ward is better than people think. I hope Ward stays healthy to prove that. We know when he
really, that's the only worry. That's the only worry. And I think that, look, he got through last season and he did, and we already know that people thought he had a worse season than he actually had. In reality,
he played well. Now, if you want to tell me,
he's going to be he could possibly be a sneaky surprise in that secondary. Man, wouldn't you like to see a takeaway or two out of that kid early? Wouldn't you love to see it?
I'm just glad that the Browns have options now, like Claiborne, who can come in there on third down if Olivier Vernon's not pulling his weight to come in there and sack the quarterback. And I just want to make that statement. People have forgotten about him. Claiborne's there to do one thing on third downs, get the quarterback. And he did that really well in Atlanta. Don't forget him. I think the defense has more questions. It's good that Goodson's back. He's going to be in the game. I think that's a big thing. We all know here's where I'm realistic now. If the defensive line does not control the game, the Browns are going to have some issues on this team. Even with Denzel Ward, I'm not naive. This team does not have enough talent with the linebackers or with the other cornerbacks or safeties to do big things. This team has to pressure the quarterback, has to control the line. Period. End of sentence. So Olivier Vernon stinks and Claiborne gets hurt and this team can't. It's only one-sided again. And with Sheldon Richardson still does his thing. We've already seen if the other end's not pulling his weight, it doesn't matter. So it is absolutely huge for this team. If people are like, well, Andy, you must think that the Browns are going to go 16-0. The one thing outside of this is Stefanski's first year. We won't relive all those things. It's a big look. There's a lot of things that Stefanski's got to learn on the run. I'm confident in his abilities. I'm confident in him and his calmness, but it's still his first game. We've lived this way too long. A lot of things seem to go really weird for first-year coaches. So I'm embracing that. My other big fear in this team is left tackle. I just really hope Wills is ready for what's coming to him because he's a first-round pick and the expectations are going to be high for him to play well. And that, I will say, Jared, makes me nervous. Stefanski first year makes me nervous, of course, sure. My second big worry is Wills. Wills on the left side, it makes me nervous.
Baker rolling out, Baker getting rid of the ball quickly. Those are the keys.
Huge.
Those are the keys.
And Harrison Bryant
and running the hell out of the ball.
Yeah. Yep, it's going to be huge. I'm telling you.
That will help. That again will alleviate some of the pressure.
Yep.
Off of that side of the ball.
Yeah, I will say I'm ready to watch Wills because I've not read positively glowing things about him yet. So I'm very, very interested to see how he plays.
Well, can I be real about this? I mean, we got to say this. And I say this with all due respect and love for all of the beat reporters and everybody that writes and talks about the Browns on a daily basis. They're not coaches. They've been excited about this team over the years. They've been down on this team over the years. None of them have it figured out. And I don't really think that we can take what we have gotten from them this preseason, this training camp, and all of a sudden just have worries when it comes to this first game of the season, when it comes to actual game play, when we have game one of the season. I just don't. I can't. I can take it with a grain of salt. Does that make sense? And I would mean that if I was out there watching too. You only know so much when you're watching players play against themselves, play against their own teammates over and over and over and over and over and over and over in Berea. That's it. That's all you got. So I just cannot walk away from there and say, I've got a beat on this team. You can't.
Here's how I'll take it. And let's lead us into the Ravens matchup now. Last year at this time, Lamar Jackson didn't look good in practice with his throws, did not look good at times in the preseason. And then, holy shit, 2019 season started, and he was the MVP of the league. So when I hear, and I love Tony Grossi, and I do, I respect him. When I heard from Tony Grossi, I got reports that Lamar Jackson only threw one interception in practices. I'm like, well, I kind of chuckled. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's nice. When I go, it doesn't matter as soon as you start. Now, look, he was the MVP of the league. I'd be the first. I know I'll speak for both of us. I was shocked. If you would have told me in 2019 Lamar Jackson's MVP, I would have lost my house.
Still feels like a fluke.
I mean, it's unbelievable. But hey, and kudos. He was great.
Proved everyone wrong. Cool.
He was great. Hey, he deserves it. So let's lead into the game. Ravens, we all know them, vomiting, Art Modell. That was awful. This is why we hate Baltimore and all that and more. So Jared alluded to it. The line's at 8. It's gone down to 7.5 because a lot of people are putting money on the Browns to cover that 7.5 or 8. There's a lot of money going towards the Browns in this game. So keep that in mind. That's not people like you and I and everybody listening. Those are Vegas. Those are gamblers. putting money on the Browns to cover. Not win, but cover. So it's interesting.
Well, wouldn't surprise me if the Browns came out up 14 in a game like that.
God, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Well, it's going to have to it's going to come down to takeaways. It's going to come down to controlling Lamar. That's it.
Here's the one thing that I found interesting that I've read about the Ravens. And because I obviously read up about them a lot today and whatever else. Their big thing in the offseason was we need to stop the run. And the other big thing that I've been hearing from all camp is developing Lamar Jackson's arm into a passer, not just running around and well on the field. So here's how let's take this in twofold first. The Ravens last year rarely had their defense. I mean, look, watch the Titans game. By the way, watch Nick Chubb running down 90 yards plus to score a touchdown. They couldn't stop the run. Couldn't stop it all year. By the way, Freddie Kitchens didn't remember that in that last home game. He tried to throw the ball so many goddamn times. But all that to be said, the Ravens on defense made a big push to really stop the run. So that's what they had to do, and that's what they made a big emphasis on. As my son Carson tries to call me again. All that to be said, it is an amazing show. All that to be said, it's going to be interesting to see if the Browns can push back against a team that has their full health and that's focused on stopping the run. We just mentioned it. Running the ball is going to be a big success, not just in this game, but the whole year. So that's 1. 2, I think some of this is fluky. I can't see the Ravens throwing the ball over the field, Jared. I can't see it. That's all I've been hearing. Oh, the Ravens are going to go downfield. I'm like, the Ravens? The Ravens are going to go downfield? I think that's a fluke. And by the way, if they want to throw the ball, hey, go for it. Last year's offensive rankings, Uno in rushing, first, 27th in passing. If they think Lamar Jackson starts whipping the ball around, love it.
Well, and we have to be real about this. There were many times where there were desperation chase downs on Lamar where, and maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, but from what I remember, he threw up some lucky ducks.
Again,
look. Am I making this up? A lot went his way when it needed to.
Here's the one thing I'll say about Lamar Jackson. Insert Randall Cunningham, insert Michael Vick, insert Cam Newton. If you keep running in this league, you will eventually get popped, and it sadly will bring you down. Now, he got popped last year and he got up. I just have learned this for running quarterbacks. And again, Steve Young too, Elway, all these guys, right? At some point, you have to make more throws. That's why the Ravens are doing the right thing by saying what they're doing. Because they're right. For the longevity of someone's career as a quarterback, you got to start throwing more. I mean, you're just never going to make it. He took a lot of hits and he kept getting up. Again, kudos to the man. And by the way, he is tough. That kid is really talented. History tells you if you keep getting popped, though, you're eventually going to not come back up.
Yeah.
So to Jared's point, not only did you get lucky with his throws, he got lucky he kept getting up. So eventually you're going to get popped and you're not going to get up. I mean, it just happens. It just happens in this league, especially running quarterbacks.
Look for the Browns to chance some things with, some safety blitz action, and watch out for Olivier and Miles. You just hope for them to not do that whole over pursuit of the run type thing that we've seen Miles have an issue with over time. That's going to be frustrating. So again, I don't have a beat on it, but those are the things that we can look. If they can, if they can stop them, great. If they can't, boy, oh boy, it's going to be tough on defense. Look,
again, the other big disadvantage for the Browns is Harbaugh and Stefanski. Not that Stefanski's not up to the level of Harbaugh, but it's just plain experience, and Harbaugh's Super Bowl champion coach. I mean, there's a lot here. The Browns and openers, we won't relive that sad song. I already did. So there's a lot here to nibble on. Now, here's some current things that will pick the game. I told you about the current line for the game. It's gone to 7.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 7 for the game. People keep making bets on the Browns. For the overall season, to make the playoffs, it's pretty much 50-50. If you bet 100, you win 108. If you bet 130, you get 100. So there's actually more of a positive vibe that the Browns will make the playoffs. Jared hit it. It's 8.5 wins for the Browns over the over-under. 34-1 to win the Super Bowl, which I think is fair. 17-1 to win the AFC. That's pretty. I think that's actually pretty good. And then 4.8 to 1. I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more higher number. I mean, if you're a gambler, I'd love to see more like a 6 or 7. But okay, I mean that means they think that they actually might have a chance to win it. I mean, 5 to 1 is not a great odd. So all that to be said, and maybe we'll get to this game. We both said around 10-6, 11-5. Are you still feeling that before we tip off this first game?
Say that again.
We said beginning of the year around April, May. We did the schedule game. And we both said 11-10 wins. Are you still feeling 11-10 wins? 8.5 is the number.
Sorry, I apologize, by the way, Andy. I need to let you know. I was just reading an update on the Daniel House Jr. issue going on in the NBA. But that's why I disappeared mentally for a moment, because that's a kind of a funny story to me.
Yes.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
As Jared thinks.
I think 10 and 11. I think 10 wins, 11 wins is still very much in play. I think it's in play. I don't think it's crazy.
I think the under over has it exactly there. So I think it's either 8 or 9. I was at 10 before this. I've all right. I'm gonna say over. I say 9. I say 9-7. I think 9. I'm going to do one more less win. I say 9.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I've been stuck at 9-7 in my head for a long time now.
Yeah, I think 9-7. I really do.
Yep.
Do they make the playoffs?
I don't know enough. I don't know. I don't know if 9-7 is enough to get it.
Here's what I say. I'm going to write this down. So we're going to relive this as we go into buys throughout the season. I actually think the Browns will make the playoffs because it's a year of attrition. And it's going to be a year, like I've noticed in baseball. Weird things are going to start happening because obviously in football, you have a lot of injuries. There will be at times where COVID's going to come in and out. Okay, there's going to be whatever you want to call it. COVID scares or whatever else. And it's going to be interesting to see how the NFL adjusts to it. The one thing I love about the Browns is they seem to have a very good mental makeup, even with a first-year staff. Because of that, I think there's going to be times where even teams that get red hot early, like we always say that it's a long season. It is a really long season this year. A lot can change week to week. Because of that, in the long term, I think somehow or another, weird things are going to happen. I think there's going to be at times where you're going to see things where it's like, wow, they stunk in week 1 and they're great in week 12. Like, I think you're going to have that kind of season, which you don't. And lately, when we've done this podcast, that's not been the motto. I do think this year that's the motto. I really, really do. But I think the Browns make the playoffs. I would take the 130 bet. I would. I would. I would take it. And it's close. By the way, that's why it's 108, 130. It's close.
Well, again, it just continues the theme that I've been saying the entire time. 50-50 coin flip for me this season. That's where I'm at. The Browns are not a team that I would put my money on either way, against or for this season. I would avoid betting on the Browns, period, this year.
If you're gambling real money, I agree with Mr. Watson. So I'll make the first prediction on Sunday, 1:00 CBS. For those of you around the country, DirecTV like me. I've been back and forth on this game. I think again, so the opener, we all learned anything's in play. Because of the Ravens' talent and Harbaugh, I think the Ravens are going to win. I would love to see the Browns win. I just think the Ravens' experience and with the Harbaugh, I think it's just too much. I just think the Ravens will find a way to eke out a win. I hate to say it's another open, and again, history shows the Browns don't do well in openers. I'm starting to become that guy who goes, maybe it's just a thing. It is. It doesn't mean the season's lost from what I just said, but I'll be realistic. I think the Browns lose at a tight one, something like 28-24, something like that.
35-24 Browns.
Good job.
The Ravens score late, and that's garbage points. Otherwise, they would have lost 35-17.
Jared, saving the podcast. I hope I'm wrong, but I just have learned. And
I'm fucking serious too right now.
I know you are.
I'm dead serious.
So Browns 28-24 for me, and then for Jared Watson 35-24. where we live every one of these, and it'll be fun. The rest of the season, I thought the opener was pretty much classic to what you thought. Boy, the Chiefs, COVID, no COVID season, they look great. They're going to be very tough to. The Texans are a weird team, and by the way, that doesn't mean their season either. The Texans can look crappy and win 12 games. They are the most bizarre organization on the planet.
But I mean, here's the thing: same as it ever was. You know what you're getting with the Texans. Nothing's really changed my mind there.
Yeah. Don't win 10, 11
JJ
games.
Watt's good. Yes, Deshaun Jackson's good. Yes, I mean, like there's things that we know about them. There's
The one thing I will say, the Patriots have obviously changed a lot, which I'll get to in one of my picks here. But I will say the baton has been passed. The Chiefs are that new team. They're going to be good for 5 to 10 years, folks.
Yeah.
That team is loaded.
Yep.
They look good. They look comfortable. That team is just easy flowing good, which is for us is really annoying. Games that stand out to me this week. I think opening day is always fun, especially in the opening week of the NFL. Here's some games that I like. I always make my predictions. I will do it here today too. I love the Seahawks -2.5. That's when I wrote these down. This was about noonish on Friday here on the 11th. I like the Seahawks on the road. Take the 2.5.
I think they cover too.
I love that game. Vikings at home. I think the Packers are in for a long year. I just have not liked the vibe ever since that playoff game. They got the shit kicked out of them by the Niners. And it's one thing to lose. That was just thromping. The Vikings at home with Cook. I love that team.
I think the Vikings cover too.
I think the 2.5 is way too light. Here's my. I always try to pick one. Here's mine. I think the Dolphins are much better than people think.
I was going to say the same damn thing.
I love the 6. Take the 6 and run. I think the Dolphins are going to win outright. I think the Patriots, as the year goes on, will be okay.
And the Dolphins have always played well. They've always played well against the Patriots.
Now they always do better in Miami.
That's the difference here. Yes,
but again, no Foxborough crowd. It's the same. By the way, even with fans in the stands, that's something I took note of. You felt it, sure, but it's not. Oh my gosh, a partial crowd is no crowd. Let's just remember that as we go down the road here. So Dolphins, I think I was impressed by the Dolphins last year. The Patriots, I know it's the Patriots, but even Belichick's had losing years. I think they're in for a much longer year than people think. And then the other game I'd like, the Jacksonville Jaguars are terrible. Every week on these picks show until they cover, I'm taking the opposite team. Take the Colts in 8, and this is with a Colts team with Phillip Rivers, and I still like
Mountaineer got a sports book.
I don't know.
I might need to take a quick trip.
I know. I mean, seriously. I will say this to what Jared's alluding to. I've learned this. Opening week in NFL is the wildest. It is where shit can hit the fan. Mm-hmm. Years and years ago, everyone loved the Dolphins and the Texans home games like 10, 15 years ago. Texans only won. They blew them out. Weird stuff happens on opening day, but I do like these picks a lot. I'll do them every week. That's fun. I agree with Jared. The Giants-Steelers thing's annoying, which, by the way, the Giants, I think, is a sneaky 6. I thought about that. The other thing, too, and then we'll get to the Indians. The other thing that I noticed this year that I am not as fascinated about, but is the big talk is the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. I don't know why. Are you into that? I'm not into Tom Brady fascination mode. I don't know.
I'm not fascinated by it, but it would not surprise me if they play pretty well.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me because it wouldn't surprise me. Now, it also wouldn't surprise me if Gronk gets hurt after the first game and is gone, and if it all falls apart. Neither one of these scenarios would surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
here's where I'll go on with this. I'm fascinated by the Buccaneers. Obviously, with Tom Brady, we're all sports fans, so you want to watch it. I'm not as in tune or enthralled by it as other people, and that's how I'll leave it.
Well, and let's say this too. It wouldn't surprise me if the Saints just totally shit the bed the first game of the season against them.
They're an interesting team. Drew Brees has got
that might be the only, you know what I mean, and then from there on the Saints pick up and Tampa Bay falls apart. Like that hard read, like a lot of other things with this season. Although I know I sound like I say that about a lot, but there's certain games that we have been already like we already know Indianapolis. Yes, that's
Indianapolis.
Right.
Take.
So we've already said,
Take the look. There's certain obvious things. Like I think the Vikings win big. I think the Seahawks are going to blow out the Falcons.
I think the Rams cover at home against Dallas too. That's 3.5.
Yeah, I think the Rams,
and I think the Giants potentially beat the Steelers. I think the Steelers are a little more up on themselves than they should be.
That's a weird game for the Steelers.
Very weird.
That's a weird game. Yeah.
But if Titans Broncos, nothing. I got nothing for it.
A lot of people love the Raiders too. I'm not so hot on that. The other game, okay, Here's my 5th game. If I had to pick one, I'm not going to take it. I took my 4. If I had to take a 5, I would love the Eagles. They're playing on the road against the football club Washington FC now. The big thing about that game, Washington has been through a lot. I feel for Rivera, who's battling. Obviously, Alex Smith is a great story. The whole logo change, owner in trouble. And that organization is going to go through a lot of change. Washington's another one. You can probably put pseudo in this draft on these picks. What I do, Washington and the Jaguars. Every week, I'm going to really look at those teams. I just don't like how their seasons are unfolding already.
Yeah,
it's long. It feels like a long season already.
It does.
But again, I've learned an opening day. I stayed away from that ones. I've learned an opening day. Sometimes weird things happen. And Alex Smith has a lot to prove, and I do think that can come and play in week 1. So that's your NFL.
That's the NFL, brother. We did it, man. We did it. First one of the year.
We made it through. I'll do picks all year, and Jared can make fun of me as I probably get things wrong. And then, God, I hope Jared's right about the Browns game.
I'm never right.
God, I hope you're right.
I haven't been right in 20 years. Kidding me?
Okay. When we last talked about our Indians, we were in lovey-dovey mode. Defense is playing well. Everything's going great.
I don't even want to talk about them, to be completely honest, Andy. I want to burn through this.
3 days have been kicking the can shit bad. Yeah. Now, I'm going to allude to this at the top because I brought this up, and Jared and I talked about this on text. The Indians have so much pad that right now, these 3 games aren't a problem. Now, if you continue to lose like this, we have a problem. But that's historical stuff. This is not a problem. We're in mid-90s mode where they have games to lose, and it's okay because they're safely in right now. So all these things we're going to discuss are just in-season moments. We'll all forget by October, more than likely, unless this is a complete collapse, which it won't be. But all that to be said, these 3 games were hard to watch.
Terrible. And as soon as I was going to put the game on, I saw they were down 3-0. I said, nope, not turning it on. And thank God I didn't. Thank God I didn't. Andy, I have nothing to say. I'm dead serious about this. I've talked this shit to death. We know what their problems are. We know where their good points are. There's nothing else to fucking say. I have been repeating it over and over again. Over and over again. And here's what I will say, though. The one thing that I will jump in here and say right now is it's getting scary with Frankie Lindor. That's it. Got nothing else.
There's a lot of scuttlebutt about Lindor being distracted about free agency. Lindor has not had a clean season, to say the least. I don't think he's played poorly, but he's not played up to his ability. I think that's very, very upfront to say. The Indians need Lindor right now because finally Hernandez isn't hitting. Finally, Reyes has cooled off. Carlos Santana, it must have been a 1-year thing because he's batting under 200 again. J-Ram's hurt, coming back tonight on Friday, September 11th. J-Ram's coming back, which is a good thing. Here's the news and notes that I saw about this week, though. I'll relive them because I love reliving everything. The Shields made a mistake on a fly ball on Tuesday night, and then everything went to hell after that point on. I mean, it went to hell so fast that you could not even get you could just feel. It's funny. Cameron, my son, goes, "This is not going well." I'm like, "I'll be all right." And then finally, what you knew was going to eventually happen. Finally, Merrifield got hot. He carried that team on his back. Merrifield's always killed the Indians. He had been in a week-long slump. Sometimes that's just what happens. All that to be said is Carson Billman calls me like 3 straight times as I'm doing this speech, which I love. This is a dad moment right now where you're trying to do. It's just great. All that to be said. Here's the key things as Carson Billman calls me again. Here's a quick thing that turned this whole series around. The Royals had lost, so I think it was 8 or 7 in a row, and that whole thing woke him up. This lineup's good. And here's the thing that I will get on. The defense slumped. The Indians looked like they had no care on Thursday night. Singers, I don't want to hear about Singer.
Yeah, the first game they lost in this series was a complete defense. I mean, they threw that game away. Period. They threw that game away.
They did, and then they had their annual can't hit Danny Duffy, which is so annoying. He's not that good.
Look, you're telling me that into the 8th inning, a no hitter against the Royals. Give me
Singer, a rookie, a ERA above 5, and by the way, lifeless. I agree with Tom Hamilton because I said the same thing. I'm like, they just don't care. These at-bats have no energy, no care, bat flipping. And then, again, every team in baseball goes through this. The Indians are going through it right now. Okay, that's all to be said. It's fine. But it's annoying to watch. All this is the Lindor story is legit. I will say, and I'm glad someone said this, because here's where I'm putting a new pedestal on. Not overly jumping off the bridge concern, but I'm keeping my eye on it. Savali has not pitched well in a while. He has not won a game since August 19th. Today is September 11th. That's almost a month. His ERA is almost at 4. He falls to 3-5 on the season. He is definitely going through the meat grinding sophomore season right now. It happened to Kluber. So doesn't mean he stinks long term. He's going through the sophomore, second year meat grinder stuff. But Jared, he's definitely in that mode, and I just say it's concerning. And doesn't mean he stinks. Doesn't mean I don't want him back. No. I'm just saying it's concerning. He's having a hard time. He's definitely
hard. It's just hard for me to even talk about him right now. This whole team. It just really is. It's just hard for me to even talk about him.
I'm going to bring a positive to Jared. Jared needs some positive. Karinchak looked great on Tuesday.
Cool. He needed to.
That was good. J-Ram is back. I was going to bring that up. There's a whole controversy about that. Some people think he should have been playing. I don't know, but his hand feels better. I will say this. I have no problem with them sending J-Ram until tonight. If his hand's hurting him, we even October. Sorry.
Look, you're not worried about getting into the playoffs.
That's my point.
So
that's my point. If he needs rest. I was surprised by some of those comments. I was like, nah.
Well, here's the move. I got to tell you, it was nice to finally. Well, not nice, but you knew it was coming. Simber gone. You knew
he was my next one.
You knew it was coming. You knew that was the move.
He did some nice moments, but he stunk from day one, and I feel bad. So I know Simber's a nice man, but he stunk. I don't know what else to say. And by the way, he was awful on Tuesday. He was awful. Jared, he was not good all year. The other big move that happened too is Cam Hill. He's up. Dominic Leone.
Another move that a lot of people thought should have been the original move.
I was stunned by that. They must have had something.
That was weeks ago.
They must have had something to work out with Cam Hill. By the way, Phil Maydon's lost his stuff too. And that's something else I would keep your eye on.
Yep.
He's got to get cranking too now. He's in that Karinchak class where he needs to figure out what's going on with his stuff. Dominic Leone, he had 2 good moments last week. Everything else stunk for Dominic Leone. He stunk badly last night. So I was not surprised to hear about that too. One more thing, and then we'll get the ratings and we'll get into college football. The last thing real quickly for next year, Jeffrey Rodriguez has not been healthy. He's on a 45-day injured list, which means he's not going to play again this year, which wasn't a thing. Not this year. Something to watch next year. Jeffrey Rodriguez is a good pitcher. They need him to come back. Something to watch because he would be good out of the bullpen next year. Just saying. Keep your eye on Jeffrey Rodriguez. He is not coming back this year. So if people are wondering, hey, it gets crazy. Savali can't pitch. Is Heffrey? No, Heffrey's gone. You're not going to see him again this year. Big things, which I'm not surprised. I'm sure you're not surprised that the Indians ratings are way up locally again. Way up locally again. So if people don't think people aren't watching the Tribe, that's not true. The ratings are way up again this year. I wanted in on that. They play the Twins. We'll get into more on Monday. Again, if this was a regular season, this would be a huge series because they'd be competing against not only the Twins, but the White Sox to get in. It's not. I'll just be honest. Like, you want to beat them, we do, but it's not a must.
Yeah, no, I think for morale purposes only. And I just would like to tune in and to watch something enjoyable. That's all I want. So
The-
selfishly, I'd like them to not suck at the plate like they have.
There's been 2 series so far. The Cubs series at home and the Royals series at
Yep.
home have been,
Yep.
brutal. And those last 3 games were Cubs bad. That Cubs series bad at home. They go on a long road trip. They've been playing better on the road anyways, Jared, so maybe that's where they need to be. For people who are curious, the Indians, if the playoffs start today, would be playing the Rays, which I would not be happy about. The Indians never do well against the Rays. The number 1 seed would be the A's, 2 Rays, 3 White Sox, 4 Twins, 5 Jays, 6 Astros, those cheating Astros, 7 Tribe, and then your Yankees at 8. It is great not to see the Red Sox name in there. I think it's fun. Good to see. Would you like to relive the Tuesday game? Nope. Would you like to relive Danny Duffy? No. Would you like to? You know what we're going to do? Jared Watson's wearing an Ohio State hat. Let's talk about Ryan Day and those Buckeyes as we wrap up.
Yeah, Buckeyes. Wait, what are we even talking about, Andy?
Quotes, PR releases, quotes, PR releases, quotes, PR releases,
The
quotes,
Big Ten
PR
is
releases,
a fucking mess.
Quotes, PR releases.
We've got states that are threatening to sue universities over playing.
Okay,
Make a fucking decision and stick to it.
so I'm ready to say this. Commissioner Warren has to start doing a better job. Did I think he made the right move a month ago? I do. But that doesn't mean he's handled it well between now and then. This has not gone well. When you have a mutiny, which they're having a mutiny, that's not good. This is a full-out mutiny now. Ryan Day went out and said basically, hey, while I understand the Big Ten's conference decision to postpone the football season because of health and safety considerations, the communication of information from the Big Ten following the decision has been disappointing and often unclear, end quote. This has not gone well for Commissioner Warren. Not gone well. Commissioner Warren. He needs to have a kumbaya, break some bread, drink some wine, feel good meeting soon.
Andy, what they're dealing with right now is a lot of big Midwestern egos. Big Midwestern egos, period.
And coaches who are looking around, seeing that Clemson's playing, Notre Dame's playing, next Oklahoma's playing, and it's finally eating at them. Now, I'm going to remind everyone this. As we talk about all this, there's been another outbreak at Louisiana Tech. TCU had an outbreak. There are teams that are still dealing with this. So for everyone, and again, I'm going to keep this again. I don't know who's right or wrong here. I don't. Because there's some people whose respect I really believe in and trust, like Coach Urban Meyer, who believes they should be playing and who's confused about Duke and Notre Dame playing, but why isn't I playing? And by the way, it's mixed. It's hard. I'm not saying who's right or wrong. However, the Louisiana Tech story, they had a COVID outbreak. TCU had to cancel their game with SMU. There is still things going on with health and safety protocols. It needs to be reminded. That's why these things happen. I just want to bring up the other side because it isn't like that's gone away here. Now, all that to be said, Commissioner Warren has to do a better job with this. This is a mutiny. If you're not going to play, you got to communicate these coaches and get people feeling hunky-dory. Because if you don't, Jared, you're going to have a mutiny, and you can't have that either. Can't have it.
I got no input. And I'm not trying to push it like I did with the Indian stuff. The Indians have pissed me off, but we're talking about the Big Ten. Look, they made a decision. The decision was made. Anytime you're making a decision regarding the health and welfare and safety of other individuals, you have got to give at least the benefit of the doubt that I don't know if look, opinions are like assholes, Andy, and everyone's got one. I'm reaching into the old classic. I'm reaching into the classic bag there for that one. History, right? When we look back on this in a couple of years, then we're really going to have the full scope and the understanding of what was done, what should have been done, what shouldn't have been done, what risks were worth taking, what risks were not worth taking.
Again,
in this time, in this day and age, though, make a decision, stand by the decision, go with the decision. That is leadership. If you are being bucked by other coaches, then threaten them with whatever you need to threaten them with to shut them the hell up and remind them, just like those coaches would remind the kids on their team, you play for me. Get in line.
Again.
Now, I don't know if you can do that, but you get my point.
Again.
Get on the same fucking page.
Again,
please.
I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I don't.
Right.
It's an impossible.
I'm speaking from a strictly from a leadership, CEO, management position.
And by the way, I'm going to echo what you're saying.
The hardest part about any management decision is the decision itself, making the decision.
Yeah.
The decision. But once the decision is made, you better all get on fucking board and roll with it.
To Jared's point, and here's what I'm going to echo. He has to get a handle on the situation now. Because it's not just Ryan Day. I don't blame Ryan Day's frustration, actually. I understand it because he's frustrated because he doesn't think he's getting clear answers. And here's where it's alarming. He's not the only one. And now you're getting to a point where it's like, well, okay, here we are a month later, and they're still chirping. And it's also Franklin, and you've heard stuff from Harbaugh. This is not good.
Well, and here's the other aspect. Then that's because these folks are also getting it from politicians.
Again,
and those politicians should get their fucking mouth. Get out of it. Go.
Well, that's a different discussion. Here's what I would do if our commissioner.
Remember how people always say stick to sports? Stick to politics.
In this case right here, he's got to get it under control because, again, publicly, this is going horribly wrong. And it's getting to a point, I've done this long enough to know, he's losing edge that could be actually affecting the league going forward. Don't let that happen. It's getting close to that. I'm telling you, it's getting close to that. You don't want to start hearing rumors about Nebraska wanting to leave or other teams wanting to leave or other universities want to leave. And I don't think you're there yet, but you're
maybe Maryland and Rutgers.
What? Yeah, no. By the way, you haven't heard from Rutgers at all. But here's the thing. It's getting close to that. And he's got to stay away from that. He's got to. He's got to do a better job. He's got to. He's got to get. If he's going to stick to his guns, great. Stick to your guns. Get everybody in a room. Say we're not going to leave until we sing Kumbaya and walk out with a plan. And by the way, if that walk out the plan is you play in mid-October, fine. That plan is you play on Thanksgiving, starting then fine. And by the way, even Bowlesby, the Big 12 commissioner, says if the Big 10 starts playing soon, we'll wait for them to start the playoffs. Everyone realizes the Big 10 is important. Pac-12 too. No one's saying that. But they need to work together on this as a league. I like the Big 10. I grew up in the Big 10. I want them to do well. This is not going well. Not going well. All that to be said, we'll wait to see what happens.
Not much is, though, Andy, right?
No.
I mean, it's status quo right now is for things to not be going well.
I'm going to do a full report on the Irish next week. I'm excited about the Notre Dame Duke game. I will watch Wake Forest Clemson. Every other game is very much a blah shoulder shrug to me. Might watch a little bit of Syracuse Carolina. But those are the games that come to mind. Everything ramps up at the end of September with the SEC and the ACC really starting to play more teams in our conference. Browns, I'm excited. I hope I'm wrong by my prediction. I hope they prove me wrong with opening day stuff. Boy, the Indians, that was a rough week. Rough.
Hey, don't forget, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, and on Twitter @CLE and Beyond. It's like my mind just stopped working. Here we go. Andy and Jarid @gmail.com, Andy and Jarid @gmail.com. We are a part of Waiting for Next Year. Check them out. Original Cleveland sports reporting at waitingfornextyear.com. Andy, last words.
I agree with you, EJ. I do look like I'm playing in the Texas Hold'em tournament. I appreciate that comment. Oh, Bear Bear has a great weekend. We have a lot of exciting things happening very quickly. You're going to start hearing this word evergreen. You're going to start hearing some other words coming in like Kaylee Waterhouse, who does a great job. You're going to start hearing some other things like that. That's exciting stuff. It's also just as exciting about the Browns. And again, it's okay to have realistic expectations and still win. That's my final statement.
He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Browns 35, Ravens 24. I'm fucking serious.
Mm-hmm.
Or they won't. Or they get blown out. 42-0. Browns lose. Fuck.
Ew, don't say that. Lamar Jackson standing on his head.
Go call your son.
I'm going to call Carson Billman.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.